First, a couple of announcements before we get to today's quilt cards. Tomorrow is, I guess I'll call it last chance deadline for several things I have. Number one is tomorrow is the very last day to order from the annual catalog and mini catalog. You can do that up until 11:50 p.m. Mountain Time, which I don't think you're going to be up if you're on Eastern Time. Maybe you will be. Then it will be 1:50 p.m. 1:50 a.m. But anyways, if you would like to place your order online with me, you can do it up until that time. Midnight is an easier way to think of it. If you would like me to place your order for you, I need to get that in late tomorrow night. So I'm going to do cutoffs for ordering for you at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. There are still several items on the last chance list that are discounted and still available, so you might want to take advantage of that. Tomorrow is the last day to sign up for my In Color Club. I have two clubs going. The Basics, where you get, let me think, the ink pad, the re-inker, the marker, the bolt of ribbon, and a package of cardstock. And that is $39 a month for 5 months. You'll get a different color each month. And by the end of those 5 months, you'll have the complete collection of all the basic In Color products, new In Color products. The other one is the I Want It All option. And in addition to those things, you'll be getting the Memories and More cards in the In Colors. I take that back. The Memories and More cards, the Memories and More envelopes in the In Colors, the Stampin' blends, and what's the other thing? Designer Series paper. In both of those collections, you'll get a card from me each month in that particular month's color. Plus, if you're doing the I Want It All option, you're getting an additional Stampin' Up! Gift each month, and that part is a surprise. Tomorrow is also the last day to register for my paper and ribbon shares. You can get paper share only, ribbon share only, or you can get the combination of the two at a discounted price and with a gift. Tomorrow is also the last day for my final countdown ordering incentive. If you place an order of $35 or more, you'll receive one Stampin' Up! Product from me. If it's $50 or more, you will get two. If it's $100 or more, you'll get 3 gifts. And if you place an order of $150 or more, which gets you to Stampin' Rewards of $15 or 10%, if you go over the $150, you'll still get all 3 gifts plus your Stampin' Rewards for a $150 order. Okay, and so those are my 4 announcements for the final countdown deadline of June 2nd. And the last thing I want to say before we move on to today's project is that lots of our hearts are very heavy, and Stampin' Up! Is something I can use as a platform for sharing kindness and spreading sunshine. And today I'm just going to go a step further and ask you all to pray for our country and all the people that are hurting. And I'm asking you to pray for peace, compassion, and understanding. I don't care what religion you are or aren't. I don't care the color of your skin, the place you worship, your political affiliations. I don't care. All I'm asking for is that you pray for peace and compassion and understanding. And I think our world needs that more now than ever. So I thank you for joining me in that. And who's ready for today's project? You ready? I'm going to flip my phone around, so you might want to close your eyes for a moment or two while I do this. Oh, you can say hi to my daughter, Andrea. She's doing some of her final, what do I want to say? Paperwork for the school year, grading, things like that. So she's over here working for a bit, and then later this afternoon, she's going to be helping me doing some Excel sheets and things like that that I want to do to help me stay on top of all my paperwork, being that Stampin' Up! Is my full-time job and it's a business for me. So we'll be working on that too. Not as much fun as designing cards, but you know, you got to do what you got to do, right? I'm trying to get this a little straighter. Okay, so today I decided we're making... Oh, Fran says, hi, Andrea. Today we are making quilt cards. I did not make one in advance, but I am going to show you 2 different types of quilt cards. And then I'm also going to show you how I applied that to a scrapbook layout. So today I'm featuring the Ornate Garden Specialty DSP. And it's beautiful. It's got some gold accents in there and just wonderful coordinating colors with it. Oh, I can't get this straight today. Need to leave it alone. And with that product suite, and you've seen me use this before, so you probably remember, there's a ribbon combo of, I believe that's Calypso Coral and Old Olive. We have these beautiful gilded gems. We always love bling, don't we? We have the Stampin' Cut and Emboss folder, which I will be using today. And don't let me forget, that's the final step. Don't let me forget before I adhere the layer to the card base. And then we also have, this is what I call one of the super bundles. Susie Brunk says, hi, Andrea. It has 2 bundles, the Ornate Thanks bundle, as well as the Ornate Style bundle. Both of them I love. I can't say I love one more than the other. I love them both. And of course, if you like all of the products in this Ornate Garden suite, in the new catalog, you can purchase all of them under one item number, which is nice, just saves you a little bit of time. So, I have a frog in my throat, can't get my screen straight. Okay, so I said to bring with you a bunch of DSP squares cut to 1 inch by 1 inch, 2 card bases of coordinating colors, and then 2 5 1/4 by 4 inch layers. So what I'm going to do now is, and you need lots of multi-purpose glue. I'm going to put mine here. I cannot get this straight today. Maybe that needs to be tightened up. Anyways, pick a square, any square. Sounds like a carnival game. Pick a square, any square. Okay, and you can start anywhere you like. In fact, I'm going to start down here in this corner. And I like to use the multi-purpose glue because it allows me, because I'm struggling here, to just slide these little squares around and move them till you get them exactly where you want them. I think we're going to go 4 here. And you just start placing all of these squares. Now you can leave a space between them, or you can just butt them up against each other. It's okay if you start off or get off a little bit of that cardstock border. Because we can always trim the edges. So I think if you start with a row, one row, get that going, and then do what I'm doing, just putting dots of glue. Oops, I just threw a few on the floor here. And I'm not really putting these in any particular order or pattern. It's just very random. And as you get them placed, then you can press them down so they're butting up next to each other, or like I said, if you want a border between, you can do that as well. Trying to make sure I use them all, the different ones. I cut so many. I hope you all have had a good weekend. There's a lot of sadness in the world, but you know, we have to find the good things. I mostly just worked on Saturday. On Sunday, I worked a little bit more and then spent a little time outside reading. And I got a nice surprise when I was out there. My littles came to see me. So that was a nice surprise. They ran into town just real briefly for a niece's birthday. They kind of did the Zoom party and then the party parade and social distancing lunch with pizza. And they were heading back to Columbus, so they popped in to see me for a little bit. And ironically, they came in about 2:15, and ironically, I was planning to leave my house. I said go back to Columbus. I meant go back to Mason in Cincinnati. But I was planning to leave my house at 3 to go to Mason. Emily and I were meeting so I could have dinner with her and just catch up a little bit. So that was really nice. And then drove home and what else did I do? I guess I watched a little bit of my Netflix series. My Netflix series right now is, what's it called? All American. And if you haven't seen it, it's really interesting. And ironically, the storyline has a lot to do with, or some of what to do is going on in our world now. Okay, now I have this extra little bit here. So if you want, you can cut this down so you have 4 by 5 inches. That is not quite the normal card layer size, but that's what I'm going to do on this one. I don't think I am on the next one though, and I'll show you why in just a minute. Now, if you have anything going over the edge a little bit, I do just a little bit in a couple places. So I'm going to line this up with my, get this back in the screen so you can see better. I'm lining that up at the 4-inch mark, and I'm just going to cut across. It is a good idea to wait for all these pieces to have dried well, because otherwise they may shift a little bit when you're pulling that cutting blade across. So that looks pretty good. Now there is one final step I'm going to do before I adhere this to my card base. Whoops. I'm going to bring in my Big Shot. I told you we would be using the Ornate Floral Embossing folder. So I'm going to put this layer, and it already looks like a quilt, doesn't it? But after fabric pieces are sewn together for the quilt, there's also typically sewing that goes on over the top of it. Some kind of design is put in over the whole thing. So I'm using the, oops, I have the wrong layer. I'm using the embossing folder to give that effect. I have to switch out my Big Shot sandwich here. And I think I have it correct now. Yes. Maybe? Yes. And I think you're going to love this effect. Not sure how well you can see that on the video. Here's the back side of it. I embossed the whole layer. So now I've got this texture. It even looks a little more worn and gives that kind of cozy feel, just like any quilt would have that texture and coziness about it. And now I'm ready to put it on my card front. Now again, I said it's not going to match up to the layer exactly. If you want to trim it down or you want to extend that, you certainly can, but I think I'm going to use mine as is. The other idea I had for that is, and I have to pull it out. The other thought I had is to kind of turn that into some sort of design, as if I intended it to be that way, and just cut some kind of coordinating strip to 5.5 inches. And you can adhere this to your card base. I'm so happy that once again we are continuing to carry the multi-purpose glue, because it's perfect for projects when you have, not only is it a good buy, but it's just perfect for projects when you have so many pieces and parts to line up and match up and place perfectly. It's kind of forgiving. And you see how that makes a little bit of a difference there? So that's what I'm going to do. Now this card would be great, a quilt card is great for, you know, thinking of you, get well soon, I'm here for you, sympathy. It could be a great baby card too, or an adoption card. So really it could be anything. So just pick a sentiment that speaks to you, and then go ahead and add that, maybe some embellishments, some pretty ribbon around that, something like that. So I'm not going to finish this now because I want to go on to the next card and show you another variation of this one. Okay, so this time instead of doing squares, I should say instead of lining them up in straight lines, horizontal and vertical straight lines, I'm going to do them on a diagonal. So when I do this, I'm just going to pick a place to start, and I am going to butt all these squares up against each other. So this one, on the first one, I just want those opposite points to be on the edge of my cardstock, wherever I'm starting. And then from there, you're just going to add other squares. So put a few in down, get them set up, and then press them down in place. Give them a moment to dry so they're not moving, because these are going to be the pieces you work off of, okay, as far as lining things up. And you just keep building and working out in each direction. Whoops, that's kind of a glob, isn't it? Again, I'm not worrying about any kind of pattern or anything like that. If you want to do that, that's certainly another wonderful variation to try. And whatever, even, you know, maybe the reason, maybe whatever your reason is for making a quilt card might even dictate that. You know, perhaps it's for a baby girl. I have two friends that have had new granddaughters born, so that's exciting. You know, babies always bring lots of joy and hope to the world. But if you were doing perhaps a new baby girl card, you might have 3 or 4 or 5 patterns in baby girl cards, a variety of pinks or yellows and pinks, whatever. And when we do this one, we are definitely going to be filling in every space, even these little corners. I like to leave myself a little room for holding. As you can see down here in my lower left corner. I love all the colors and patterns of this Ornate Garden Designer Series paper. It's been really fun to work with. If you don't, if you are a demonstrator, you might already have it. If you're not a demonstrator, be sure and check it out in the new catalog. Every once in a while, push down with a flat hand to make sure that everything's staying in place and holding well. It's a great way to use up scraps. So if you're like me, you probably have lots of scraps around left from retired papers or soon to be retiring papers. Oh, by the way, in case you're wondering, because some of you keep up with me and the littles, you know that they were supposed to have a sleepover with Mrs. Knabe in, I believe it was April, end of March, April, maybe. I think maybe April. I can't remember. But of course, we had to postpone it because of the pandemic and everything. But it is on the schedule for July 11th. And they're so excited because I told them they could actually stay 2 days or 2 nights since they had to wait longer. And Griffin said to me, maybe we could even make it 3. I said, we'll see. But it's fun to have something to look forward to. Now I'm just filling in those little, whoops, that shouldn't go there. These little triangles. The only thing when I am placing these is I try not to place the same 2 next to each other. It's not really a big deal if you do, but I just think it's a little more interesting if you don't. I will have to try one that has a set pattern though and see how I like that as well. Maybe I'll make a quote card for my friends, my 2 friends that just had new grandbabies born, granddaughters. Okay, I'm just about finished. And then you know the next step, I bet, right? The next step would be to cut off all of the edges You would think this reddish pinkish color would be red or pink. It's actually terracotta tile, which that's the color we just used on this strip here. But it's just various tones of that terracotta tile, and you know, it really is very pretty on here. Okay, let's see. How about this one here? And that one's got too much glue on. How about, I guess we'll do this one here. Some of these little triangles are teeny tiny in there. So we'll get them all on. Okay. So go ahead and use that flat hand and press down. It looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Just like that. But we do need to trim up all those edges. I want to give that a moment or so to dry, and then we also will run this through the embossing folder just like we did the other one. I'll get that ready. I'll pull this up gently. There we go. Okay. And don't go away after you see this completed card, because I have one more project to show you. Now the first one might be a little bit tricky lining up because of all those extra pieces of DSP, but do the best you can. You can always take away more. Don't do too much at once. If you're unsure, it's better to leave a little more than to take off too much, because you can go back and still trim more excess off. So I'm just trying to line up the edge of the cardstock layer with my cutting line. Now the other thing is you might, well, I'll show you on the next project, but you might be able to use those other little pieces if you're making several quilt cards at the same time. Okay, I'm going to run this through the Big Shot with the Ornate Garden embossing folder. Do you know what, when you're running embossing folders through the Big Shot, they should go in fold first. It doesn't matter which direction you're rolling your Big Shot, but you do want the embossing folders to go through with the fold side first. Go through the roller with the fold side first. Yep, I'm going to have to remember to wipe this down because I got a little bit of glue on my embossing folder. So make sure, in fact, I can feel one part's a little sticky. So if that happens, be sure that you clean that embossing folder. Just simple soap and water is perfect, just to get off any glue residues. Oh, I like that. Okay. This one I think I'll do just a, well, I don't know. No, I'll leave it like this. So now, because we went on the diagonal, nothing, I'm not trimming anything. I'm just using it as is because it's just looks really nice on that size layer. And again, with the other one, with all the straight lines, horizontal and vertical lines, we could have just added on some more squares on that little edge. Or we could have started our first square perhaps in the middle and built out instead of on the edge. And that way we would have done some cutting off all the way around that layer. Okay, which do you like better? Horizontal and vertical lines or the diagonal lines? I know which I like better. Let's go ahead and finish this one up with a pretty bow. I'm going to take this one all the way around the front of my card base and tie a bow up here. Oh, that looks pretty with the bow. Remember, I have one more project to show you, which is another variation of this quilt card. Now, we made some cards several weeks ago. You like the diagonal better? I do too. That's my favorite. Did anybody say other lines? Nope, everybody, oh, great minds think alike. We all like the same, the diagonal lines. I like that. Okay, now a few weeks ago, we did a card sketch that used 1-inch squares, not nearly as many, but we did make some of those, and I gave you some variations on that card. So I've kind of applied that to a scrapbook page, okay? So here's, and I didn't quite finish the second one, and I'll show you why. So basically, here's a 2-page spread that you could use for anything. It's nice and springy, summery, new babies, how about a baby shower or a birthday? I can think of lots of reasons to use this, maybe as a home decor piece with a picture of your children or grandchildren in it, or your beautiful spring gardens, anything like that, or definitely a scrapbook pages. What I wanted to show you is that you can leave your page like this, or you can use the pieces you cut off around the edges to fill those in and get a straight line across your scrapbook page. I'm just going to trim these off, and I'm going to save them. And I was very careful, both on when I made the cards and these 2 pages, to not get too much glue on these extra pieces, especially on these scrapbook pages, because I wanted to show you how you can use those pieces you cut off to finish out the edges here. All you're going to do is glue those right in place with your multi-purpose glue, just like you did all the squares. I will tell you on this, on the scrapbook pages, I cut my squares 2 inches by 2 inch. And just for a little bit interest, I did leave, excuse me, some spacing between them, whereas I did not on the quilt cards. I think the cards we made, oops, that's probably not quite big enough. The cards we made a few weeks ago, we did leave that space between the squares. Okay, these smaller ones I'll probably have to put, let's see. Yeah, there we go. And you know, some of those, like those triangles that were cut off on the top and bottom, are a little bit different size than the ones I cut off from the side. So you saw where I tried these 2 and then ended up pulling up because they were too short. Okay, but I can use them over here instead. And how about this? No, I'll do this one. And I did save my triangles I cut off from, probably should have trimmed that one out just a wee bit there before putting it on. So there gives you another variation. So your pages could be like this. And also, I like to make my scrapbook pages, when I'm doing just scrapbook layouts like this or pre-made pages, I often make them that I can use them in any direction, okay? Unless I know for sure how I'm using them. So you can have a straight line there. Now this isn't perfectly straight, so what I could have done is cut a piece of cardstock, that same color, and put all of these on and then cut it. And layered it on top of my 12 by 12 piece, because you can see my line's not real straight here. So I might do that. Okay, and of course you would trim off the edges that are showing. I prefer this way for the scrapbook pages, but you know, both are really nice. So I'll have to finish these pages up too and show them to you. Okay, so that is all I have for today. Please remember those announcements that tomorrow is last chance for the current annual catalog, current mini catalog, my paper and ribbon shares, the in color clubs, and there was one more thing. Oh, and my final countdown incentive, where you can get up to 3 Stampin' Up! Gifts from me with your order. On Wednesday, I will be doing a Facebook Live tomorrow evening, just like usual, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. But I'll be doing an extra one on Wednesday morning. That's the first day of our new annual catalog. I think I have it right here. And I'll be doing this at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. I'll do a quick catalog tour, pointing some things out, and then I'm going to show you give you my top 10 list of new favorites. Okay? Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you soon. Have a great day. Happy card making.